Imagine waking up every morning to find your crops destroyed, your livestock at risk, and your farm turned into a battleground. All because of wild boars. For many farmers in Brazil, this nightmare is a daily reality. Wild boars have become a major problem, wreaking havoc on farms, crops, and local ecosystems. But in the face of this threat, one creative and unexpected strategy emerged that helped farmers outsmart these relentless invaders. So, how did a simple ditch strategy turn the tide against thousands of wild boars in Brazil? Let's dive into this fascinating story. To understand why the ditch strategy became such a key tool, we first need to explore how wild boars became a problem in Brazil. Wild boars aren't native to Brazil. They were introduced by European settlers in the 1500s. Since then, they've thrived in the country's vast forests, savannas, and agricultural lands. Over the years, wild boar populations exploded, particularly in the southern and central parts of Brazil. These animals are incredibly destructive, with an insatiable appetite that can cause severe damage to crops like soybeans, corn, and rice. A single boar can destroy hectares of crops in just a few days. Their tendency to root through the soil in search of food also causes significant damage to the land itself. In addition to crop destruction, wild boars also pose a risk to farm infrastructure, damaging fences, irrigation systems, and even attacking livestock. For many farmers, the economic losses are staggering. Some estimate that the damage caused by wild boars in Brazil runs into the millions of dollars annually. So, how could farmers protect their farms from these growing invaders? In response to this growing crisis, farmers in Brazil began to think outside the box. And that's when the ditch strategy came into play. You might be wondering, how could something as simple as digging ditches make a difference? Well, it turns out this seemingly basic solution has been remarkably effective in deterring wild boars from invading farms. Farmers began creating physical barriers around their fields by digging wide, deep ditches. These trenches were placed strategically along areas where wild boars were most likely to enter, such as field entrances and forested edges. While the idea may seem basic at first, it worked remarkably well in keeping these pesky animals at bay. So, why does this strategy work? Wild boars are powerful creatures and excellent swimmers, but ditches present a real challenge for them. While they can easily cross rivers or streams, they struggle with crossing steep, uneven terrain, especially when the ditches are wide and deep enough. This means they have to exert much more effort to cross, effort they'd rather not spend. Boars are also creatures of habit. Once they encounter a physical barrier, they tend to avoid it. Farmers placed these ditches in areas that boars commonly frequent, forcing them to look elsewhere for food. The ditches served as an effective obstacle, and because they're low cost and simple to maintain, they became a game changer for many Brazilian farmers. Farmers across Brazil, especially in states like Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Mato Grosso do Sul, began reporting dramatic improvements after implementing the ditch strategy. One farmer in Paraná mentioned that his crop losses dropped by over 50% in just the first year of using ditches. Once the boars couldn't enter the fields as easily, his crops started to thrive again. In southern Brazil, where wild boars have been especially problematic for rice farmers, the ditch strategy proved to be a success in protecting valuable fields. Another notable success came from a soybean farmer in Mato Grosso do Sul, who had been losing hectares of crops each year. After digging trenches around his fields, he reported a 70% reduction in boar-related crop damage. This simple, low-cost method has become a lifeline for farmers across the country. While the ditch strategy was the main breakthrough, Brazilian farmers didn't stop there. They started combining the ditch method with other innovative techniques to increase their effectiveness. For instance, some farmers use electric fences in conjunction with the ditches. The electric fences provide an added deterrent, ensuring that wild boars don't try to dig under or climb over the ditches. Others have turned to motion-activated lights or sprinklers, which startle the boars and scare them away from fields at night. Additionally, some farmers have planted crops that boars avoid, like garlic, hot peppers, and certain herbs. These plants act as natural repellents, making the farm even less inviting to the boars. However, like any strategy, the ditch approach does come with its own set of challenges. Digging and maintaining these ditches can be labor-intensive, especially on large farms. It also requires regular checks to ensure that debris or erosion hasn't filled in the ditches, rendering them ineffective. Another challenge is that wild boars are persistent. Some boars may find weak points or less maintained areas of the ditch and attempt to cross. While the ditches work well for most boars, there are always some that might adapt. To combat this, farmers need to stay vigilant and reinforce their ditches with other strategies, like reinforcing fences or using additional deterrents. As the wild boar problem continues to grow, farmers in Brazil are exploring even more advanced techniques to manage the threat. While the ditch strategy remains a key part of the solution, technology may soon play an even bigger role. For example, some regions are now using drones to track wild boar movements in real time. These drones help farmers pinpoint where boars are most active and deploy resources more effectively. Additionally, the use of artificial intelligence is being explored to predict boar behavior and develop more targeted strategies. As Brazilian farmers continue to face challenges from wild boar populations, it's likely that a combination of traditional methods and cutting-edge technology will shape the future of wildlife management in agriculture. So, there you have it. The ditch strategy, simple as it may seem, has proven to be a game changer for farmers in Brazil who are struggling to protect their crops from the destruction caused by wild boars. It's a perfect example of how sometimes thinking outside the box and returning to nature-inspired solutions can provide sustainable, cost-effective answers to complex problems. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more farming insights, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever dealt with wild boars on your farm? Or maybe you have a unique strategy you've used to protect your crops. Let me know. Until next time, keep innovating and keep growing. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our other content on innovative farming techniques and wildlife management. We've got tons of exciting topics coming your way, so stay tuned. And remember, sometimes the simplest solutions can have the biggest impact. See you next time.